Well, viewers, today is Saturday, June 29th, 2025. I'm here to share my thoughts and opinions on the events in the last 1 week. Exactly a week ago, the United States got involved in the conflict between Iran and Israel, and they went ahead and bombed the nuclear facilities, the fuel enrichment plants in Fordo and in two other locations. And I would like to discuss about that and then the NATO event that happened, the NATO summit that happened, um, and how those two events tell us exactly about the foreign policy decision-making process and the methodology that President Trump uses, and on uh, whether his kind of policy making process is useful to the US interest or whether it is hurting the US interest. First, let's look at the events that happened. Just like a lot of people expected, the timing was something that was not expected, but everybody expected that President Trump was going to bomb at least the Fordo nuclear facility um, sometime the 14 days time period that President Trump gave Iran. So he just went ahead of his schedule and engaged the U.S. military to bomb the Fordo fuel enrichment plant as well as a couple of other nuclear facilities in Iran. And this happened exactly a week ago on Saturday. And on Saturday night, President Trump had a televised address in which he mentioned that um, the US has gotten involved just to make sure that Iran should not get a nuclear weapon. And he also reiterated that he is not against the Iranian people and he is not looking for a regime change. And then the next day, the Iranian government came out with a statement saying that they do not take this lightly and they are going to respond. And it was very well expected that they will come back with such a statement. And then again, um, President Trump insisted on Sunday that regime change is not a question. We are not going to go in for a regime change, and if Iran does not retaliate, this is it. And then on Monday morning, he changed his tack and he said that regime change is, after all, not a bad idea. And he also talked about let's do a regime change and make Iran great again, and codified it as MIGA. That was Monday early morning. But then, you had Iran retaliate by firing missiles at the U.S. Air Base in Qatar mid-afternoon USA time frame, and then and then Trump came back and said that they fired missiles at our base, but they were not able to penetrate our defenses. And you also mentioned that thank you very much for giving us an advance notice. So that was Monday late afternoon. But then Monday evening, Trump came out and said that um, both countries, Iran and Israel, have decided to, or he has facilitated the ceasefire, and both Iran and Israel will not fire at each other anymore. And he said that the ceasefire will take effect in the next 6 hours. That's what he said Monday evening, USA time. But then by Tuesday morning, there was still some exchange of missile fire between Israel and Iran, and Trump got very agitated, and he was about to go to Netherlands for his NATO summit. And before that, he was so mad, and he said that these countries are fighting like hell for no reasons. They don't know what they're doing, and they used some profanity to describe that. But he said that the ceasefire should hold, and then eventually the ceasefire got into effect, and both parties for the last 6 days or so have not fired missiles at each other. And I think it's been pretty stable from then on. So that's the summary of events that happened from Saturday to Tuesday morning. And this is one event I would like to discuss about how Trump was different from other prior presidents. He has a very unconventional way of taking these decisions. He doesn't He doesn't take advice from several people. He doesn't collaborate with a lot of the foreign policy experts or his own team. He just decides based on what he feels is the best. So if you look at it from a pure practical viewpoint, in this particular instance, I want to emphasize, in this particular instance, I think the eventual ceasefire is a very good thing for both the United States and the world, because nobody wanted a prolonged fight between Israel and Iran, as well as with the US getting involved in that fight. And especially the people in the United States are literally sick and tired of fighting a war in the Middle East. They do not want to have another war in the Middle East, and they certainly do not want to support one faction, one party or the other in such a fight. So from that pure angle, I think it was a victory, even though it was obtained in a very unconventional foreign policy decision-making process. Then let me come to the other event. On Tuesday, he went to Netherlands. He attended a NATO summit, and his only goal during the NATO summit was to make sure that the NATO countries spend more money for the defense budget. And pretty much at the end of that summit, he pretty much made sure that most of the countries committed to spending more money on defense, and especially Germany. As a matter of fact, Germany is going to spend more money in defense. I think it's one of the largest defense increases in their history. And then you had France following the same, and then you have Britain also doing pretty much the same thing. So at the end of the day, if you look at it, you can ask, why are these foreign leaders accepted the President Trump's request to increase their defense budget? It's pretty simple. They know that this president is very unconventional. He is transactional, and he decides everything on his own. And they all acknowledge and accept that he has two big things going in favor of him. One is President Trump's party, the Republican Party, is fully behind him, no matter what he does. So he's never going to get some kind of a revolt, some kind of a negative perception from his own party. So he's pretty much covered there. So the world leaders recognize that and accept that, and they know they have to face that reality. Now, the second thing is, they all know that he is very transactional. He doesn't look for advice from foreign policy experts or from military experts. He just decides what is good based on his own line of thinking. The foreign leaders acknowledge and accept that as well. So they now know that they're dealing with somebody that they're not used to dealing with. Traditionally, if you look at the White House, they have a foreign policy apparatus within the White House. There is a national security apparatus within the White House. They will collaborate, they will discuss, they will then make a decision. But this White House does not operate that way, and the foreign leaders recognize that. So even in this case, the second instance, in terms of foreign policy, Trump's unconventional way of making his decisions has actually helped the US, in my view, because this would mean that you can reduce your US's commitment in terms of dollars to NATO, because these NATO countries the other NATO countries are actually spending more money. So in these two instances, in the first one, ceasefire, as I said before, is always good than a war. And that was, again, that ceasefire is obtained in a very unconventional way. When I say unconventional, think of it this way. If President Biden, if the president of the United States was Joe Biden, and if Joe Biden announced a ceasefire on social media saying that Israel and Iran are going to stop fighting, do you think Netanyahu would have accepted? He would not have accepted. He would have said that we have our own security needs, we have our own goals, we have our own strategic interest, and we will complete the job. That's what he would have said. But when it comes to Trump, even Netanyahu knows that he cannot make Trump mad. So that is why he accepted the ceasefire. So, so I think this unconventional way of deciding when to go to war or when to make people announce a ceasefire till now has worked in Trump's favor. And there are those on the left who might think that this is not a good president and this is not a good thing where one person decides everything and there is actually too much of executive power. There are some people on the left who also claim that he should have gone to the Congress to get an approval before engaging militarily in Iran. But you have to look at it this way. Uh, Presidents from both parties have gone in, used drones, dropped bombs in other countries. This has been happening ever since 90s, after the 1991 Gulf War. It's been happening. So Bill Clinton dropped bombs in certain places. Obama authorized drone attacks on certain individuals. So this happens. Nobody gets the congressional approval. If you ask me, yes, definitely every president should seek a congressional approval before engaging militarily. But I think both political parties have done this kind of a military campaign without getting the congressional approval. So I don't think that this is such a big deal. And then finally, before I go, I'll just tell you why Trump is doing these kind of things, especially announcing the ceasefire, trying to stop the war, because he feels that he needs to get the Nobel Peace Prize. He is really working hard to basically say that he can stop wars anywhere at will, and so you should be given a Nobel Peace Prize. And that is one of the motivating factor. He tried to do it with Ukraine and Russia, but Putin is not cooperating with him. But then he also unilaterally announced that the ceasefire between India and Pakistan were due to his efforts. We do not know exactly what happened there. It's highly debatable, but nevertheless, he did that because he wants the world to be seen as somebody who is fighting for peace, who is trying to achieve peace across the world. And then now with this Iran-Israel ceasefire deal, he is definitely going to promote that narrative and concept that he is fighting for peace across the board. So I will come back to you with another episode on how he can very easily get the Nobel Peace Prize if he solves one of the long-standing disputes in the world. I will come back with an episode on that, on how you can potentially get a Nobel Peace Prize very easily by solving that problem. And that is for a different episode on a different day. And that's it for me today. I'll come back to you with another episode shortly. Till then, take care.